Hello, I am Davy. I'm awesome. And welcome to Davy's Awesome Movies, where I review the styles of movies that I love, the alternative, B-rated, cool-style flicks. And I'm about to drop this accent. This week, I'm going to be reviewing an old horror comedy, one of the most successful independent films ever. This movie was made in 1979, and it was directed by Stan Dragoti and written by Robert Kaufman and Mark Gines. Produced by Joel Freeman, made by Melvin Simon Productions, and distributed by American International Pictures, as well as MGM. And is currently owned by Shout Factory. Ladies and gentlemen, Love at First Bite. The movie opens with Count Dracula, played by George Hamilton, making some music with his wolves.
Children of the night, shut up!
He does not think they make beautiful music. Then his servant Renfield comes in and brings some reading material.
Lots of ladies in the altogether for you to drool over.
Both Renfield and Dracula in this movie are parodies of the characters Renfield and Dracula from the 1931 movie with Bela Lugosi. The reason he's looking through these magazines is not because he's a raging pervert, but he's looking for one particular model.
Cindy Sondheim. I tell you, Renfield.
Played by Susan St. James. He believes that this is the soul of the woman that he's been his true love for centuries. How they've met in many different lifetimes. And for another throwback to the 1931 Dracula,
I know her as Mina Harker.
Even though Dracula had died in that movie, Renfield claims that what saved his life was a cigarette case that he had given him, so that Van Helsing wasn't able to stake his heart.
So what do you want from me, a medal?
Sorry, master.
Maybe he wants an enema.
We don't care if you get it.
Just then, officials from the Romanian government come in to tell Dracula and Renfield that they have 48 hours to vacate the castle. They're going to turn it into a training ground for Romanian athletes. This was 1979. Romania was still a communist state. Now, as Renfield and Dracula are getting ready to leave, the villagers come to see them off.
So they've come to pay their respects, have they?
Not quite. One of the villagers is angry with Dracula because he bit his mother.
I bit your mother and your grandmother.
Got him. So Dracula and Renfield leave for New York to find Cindy Sondheim. Once they arrive, though, the airline has switched the coffins. So while Renfield is taking the coffin of some poor fellow who died while on vacation, where is Dracula?
I knew Brother Elvin.
He's at Sherman Hemsley's film debut. Even though the Jeffersons had been on the air for about 4 years at this point, this was Sherman Hemsley's first movie.
Good evening.
Okay, everybody, so the bodies got switched, but on the plus side, there are sandwiches in the foyer.
This is not the lobby of the Plaza Hotel?
When Dracula makes it back to the hotel,
Master!
he's a little annoyed with Renfield. Dracula immediately wants to get to Renfield finding Cindy Sondheim. So Renfield goes to her modeling agency and asks to arrange a meeting between her and Dracula, and of course they refuse. So he tells the modeling agent to tell him where Cindy Sondheim is going to be, or...
My lunch will eat you.
What's for lunch?
Oh my god.
Okay, before you freak out, I know it's a little venomous and dangerous, but it tastes like chicken. Dracula goes to the photo shoot that Cindy Sondheim is doing at Central Park, but there are other spectators around too, so the police are there to make sure nobody gets too close to her. Even Dracula. When he can't get through, Dracula has something in mind for the officer when he starts mind-controlling one of the police dogs. You dastardly fiend! But sadly, he still doesn't get to go meet with Cindy. So instead, he decides it's time to go have dinner. To help him gather around the city, he goes and transfers into a flying bat. Keep in mind, not only was this a low-budget movie, but it was a low-budget movie in the 70s. The first meal he tries to get is from a couple getting a little frisky. But that kind of backfires. They just shoo him off.
Oh, it's my first wife. I told you, the check's in the mail.
You married a rodent? So then he tries to go feed off of a poor family.
Look, a chicken! A black chicken!
Chicken!
But they try to eat him. Because they think a bat is a chicken. Is that what happened in 2020? Finally, he finds some dinner.
Well, why not? Hi there, little fella.
Because the wino was drunk, this in turn makes Dracula drunk. And apparently he's one of those depressed drunks. He starts wallowing in self-pity and loathing about being a vampire and how rough it is.
How would you like to go around dressed like a head waiter for the last 700 years?
Saying he doesn't get to enjoy alcohol. Which, for me, would be no problem, but for some people, they really like beer.
Beers!
Or how he never gets to try out Christmas. Or Easter.
Garlic toast.
That's the one that really gets me. Renfield, though, lifts his spirits by telling him he found out where Cindy Sondheim hangs out every single night. So now Dracula has a chance to go meet Cindy.
See, you are either a magician or you're into handwriting analysis, right?
Neither. His job sucks. Also, he professes his love to her. For some reason, this makes her think that he sells insurance. So, they just decide to go dance. They go out in the middle of the dance floor, and they disco. And I gotta say that disco dancing Dracula is not the weirdest Dracula I've ever seen. They go back to her place where she gets comfortable, and she informs him that it's okay that this is just a one-night stand. That's all she's looking for.
Are you listening to me?
No,
Why not?
because you're not saying anything we want to hear.
That's a man for you!
Oh, that's so kinky. Are you biting me?
Everybody needs a little nush. The next day we see Cindy in therapy with her doctor, Dr. Jeffrey Rosenberg. Her sort of boyfriend. They've slept together a few times. But hey, he doesn't charge her. I mean, he does, but she just doesn't really pay him. She owes him like $7,000. So I guess it's... No, it's still really, really unethical.
Doctor, I think you're losing your objectivity.
You think? In his jealousy, he tells her that he thinks this is all just a delusional fantasy of hers.
Did you ever see a dynamite hickey like that before?
He recognizes that.
Dracula.
How did you know his name?
Because he's not an idiot. Okay, he is, but not a total idiot. As it turns out, Jeffrey Rosenberg is the grandson of Van Helsing. Of course. And he tells Cindy that if she is bitten 2 more times, she will become a vampire.
Trust me, your life is in danger. I almost love you.
He's got such a way with words. Cindy agrees to let Jeff meet Dracula, so he tags along for their date.
Count, please call me Vladimir.
And you can call him the rapist.
That's therapist.
Oh, tomato, tomato.
What's a tomato?
Do you mind? I'm trying to review this movie.
Hey, you wrote these lines for me.
Fair enough. Jeff tries to trap him.
Cigarette? Do not smoke, thank you very much.
Remember, kids, it is only dopes that like to smoke. Jeff unveils to Dracula that he is the grandson of Van Helsing.
Van Helsing? I should have known!
Of course, Cindy has no idea what's going on.
Are you stoned, Jeffrey? Did you sneak a joint out of my purse?
And this is your dream girl, Dracula? Dr. Rosenberg has a surprise for Dracula.
Well, Count, what do you say to that?
I'd say you're a little off about your religious relics. While Jeff and Dracula are having a hypnotize off, trying to hypnotize each other, Cindy gets frustrated and leaves. But Dracula won't give up that easy. And because Cindy is not only clueless, but a little crazy and very, very easy, she forgives Dracula. But now... Renfield is doing this to let Dracula know that the sun is about to rise. It's 1979. They didn't have cell phones for him to call him on, so... I guess this works? So the Count leaves. Dr. Rosenberg tries to go to the police.
My name is Dr. Jeffrey Rosenberg, and I want to talk to you about a man who sucks the blood out of people.
Your landlord? He tells them all about Count Dracula, and let's just say they don't really believe him. Since the police are not going to help him, Dr. Rosenberg instead goes to Dracula's hotel.
Burn, baby. Burn!
Yeah, this is a hotel. So the hotel staff come to put out the fire. And once they've done that, the fire's put out. Now they're going to take Dr. Rosenberg out of there.
Let me go! I'm a doctor!
A doctor who is about to burn down a hotel with a bunch of innocent guests in it. I'm pretty sure they're going to take your license away. Dr. Rosenberg is taken to a mental institution, and Cindy goes there to visit him.
Well, I picked up something for you to eat.
You know they have buckets.
I've been thinking about it. We should get married.
You're a terrible therapist. She says that she's going to go and try and get him out of this mental hospital by saying that he's not crazy, but she does have one condition.
No more fires?
No.
Well, now that that is settled, she's off to go get him released.
Minutes, please.
Well, he's right. Dracula certainly does suck. Once Rosenberg gets out, he goes back to Dracula.
The second way to kill a vampire, Count. 3 silver bullets.
He shoots him, but,
That is a werewolf.
A werewolf? Really?
your grandfather would be very disappointed in you.
I'm a doctor. I know what I'm doing.
Hopefully they don't let you out so easily the next time. Even though that's probably what they should do, is lock him away for quite a while. The lieutenant he had seen earlier in the police station now believes him because of a bunch of strange occurrences that have been going on all over New York City. So he gets Dr. Rosenberg out, and they go to see Cindy.
You are too late. We're in love. Now get out of here.
Since Cindy will not let them in, they go get a search warrant. A search warrant for a vampire.
Say what?
The judge is played by Isabel Sanford. I'm guessing the makers of this movie were huge fans of the Jeffersons.
Now I want you to haul ass out of my courtroom.
She, of course, is not going to give him the warrant. Lieutenant Ferguson and Dr. Rosenberg go back to Cindy's. Warrants be damned. Renfield is there to watch out for Cindy while Dracula is off getting their trip to London ready. So Dr. Rosenberg takes out Renfield, and now he's going to take Cindy.
One way or the other, sister. Nighty-night.
It's weird, but Dracula is not the bad guy in this Dracula movie. Dracula returns with the plane tickets and finds that Cindy is gone. So, of course, he goes after her. But luckily for her...
Come on, let him have it!
The people in the elevator got her back. So now her and Dracula flee for the airport. Once Rosenberg regains his bearings and gets out of the elevator, he and Lieutenant Ferguson run after them. They go outside and find a police motorcycle and use it to chase the cab that Dracula has gotten into. Because of this, Dracula demands that they get off the road and drive on the grass. It'll be faster. Of course, the cab driver says he can't. That's illegal.
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to the cab.
So Dracula starts driving. So they chase through the park. Dracula, Cindy, and the cab driver in their cab. Lieutenant Ferguson and Dr. Rosenberg on a bike. Once Cindy and Dracula get to the airport, Renfield informs them of a problem. Once again, the coffins have gotten switched. This time, his coffin is on its way to Jamaica. But Dracula says, no problem.
I'll see you in Jamaica!
Good for them. I'd rather go to Jamaica than London. The food is definitely better. The only problem is now is that the plane that is carrying his coffin for them to be in is already getting in the air. The only way they're going to catch it is by turning into bats themselves, which means that Dracula would have to bite Cindy a final time. But he says he's going to let her decide.
Cindy! I'm pretty sure I love you!
Immortality with Dracula, or a guy that says he's pretty sure he loves you. Tough call.
Do it now, nightmare.
By the time Rosenberg catches up...
Stop it, Doctor. Stop it! Stop it!
Too late.
Oh, this isn't so hard. I think I'm gonna love immortality.
Still both a better love story and vampire story than Twilight. So there you have it. That's the independent cult classic, Love at First Bite. For an independent film, this movie was a huge success. It only had a $3 million budget, but did $43.9 million in the box office. Keep in mind, this was 1979, so that was before, years later, when it would start getting VHS releases. And to think that this movie was inspired when Robert Kaufman, the writer of the movie, and George Hamilton were hanging out at a pool together, and George Hamilton, just for silly goofs, started doing his Bela Lugosi impression. It inspired Robert Kaufman to write a script that would actually put George Hamilton in a Dracula role. He also decided to make it a funny movie because he also was very inspired by the movie Young Frankenstein by Mel Brooks. Figured, what if we did something kind of like that, but with Dracula? Which, funny enough, later Mel Brooks would go on to do his own Dracula parody. And critically, it was actually very praised because most critics were finally able to take a movie for what it was. They actually praised its over-the-top campiness and silliness, because that was the intent. And this wasn't the only parody of a classic that George Hamilton would be in. A few years later, he played Zorro in Zorro the Gay Blade. My brother and I will get to that one later. And it just speaks volumes to me, whereas George Hamilton is celebrated as a good actor, few people talk about how great he was as a comedic actor. He was very funny, and he had impeccable comedic timing. This movie was so successful that for many years, this was one of the highest grossing independent films of all time. Of course, now things have gotten bigger and better. Even though budgets may be little, they got more distributions, so they could only hold on to that title for so long. But still, the fact that this was in the late 70s, early 80s when this independent film came out spoke volumes about how well it was received. Another interesting little tidbit is how the original script of this movie had the title as Dracula Sucks, which was going to be the title until they found out that there was already a Dracula adult parody with that same name. So they went with Love at First Bite, which I actually think is a better title. Overall, this movie is a classic. It's funny. It's George Hamilton at his best, doing a great Bela Lugosi impression. Even the supporting characters like Renfield and Cindy Sondheim, great characters, funny in their own right. Cindy Sondheim being so clueless, Renfield being so creepy and weird. It was just a great overall movie, and who doesn't love a good Dracula parody? So if you're like me and you definitely like a good Dracula parody, then I suggest you check out Love at First Bite. It's a great movie. So there you have it. That is my movie review this week. If you enjoyed it, make sure to press like. Also, press subscribe and press that little bell so you'll get notifications for when I post new videos in the future. And also leave a comment. Tell me what you thought of Love at First Bite. Tell me your favorite Dracula movie or Dracula parody. Love you guys.